If you bought a brand new Ford Super Duty truck, you probably drove it home the first night and said, man, I love this truck, it's comfortable, it rides nice, but the headlights are terrible. In this video, I'm going to show you guys what happens when one of the best trucks on the market today is introduced to some of the best headlights on the market today, the Morimoto XB LED headlights. So we've got the truck pulled into the shop now, and the first thing you need to do is get this plastic cover off here. There are several plastic little tabs here, and the way you remove them is you just get a pry tool under them, flat screwdriver, whatever you got at home. Get under the middle part and then get under the outside part. They pop right out like that. And like I said, there are several. I think there's just about 20 of these things, and I just start at one side, work my way across. With all those plastic clips removed, we can go ahead and lift this thing up and just set it off to the side for now. Now the next step in doing this install is removing the grill, and there are 8 10mm bolts going across the top of it. So with a socket, ratchet, or an impact, go ahead and just start on one side and work your way across. So at this point we can pull the grill off, and honestly there's 4 plastic clips on the outside. If you pull it toward you, it's going to spring right off. And what you're going to notice is the bottom stays in, and the reason for that is there's some metal clips down below that with a long screwdriver you can press on and they'll pop right out. Some of those metal clips might stay behind in this little core support here. They look like this, and they attach to the grill. Honestly, at this point, you can just squeeze them with the pliers, pull them off, and put them back on the grill. Some of them stayed behind, 2 of them came out. It is what it is, it's no problem. This is what the clip looks like on the grill itself. And this is what you're pushing down on with a screwdriver to remove it. So now we're finally at a point where we can remove the headlight from the truck. There's a single 10mm bolt up top. There's 2 of them on the side here, one up top, one on bottom. And then there's an additional 10mm bolt right above the bumper here coming in from the side. And so all you got to do, go ahead and remove this 10mm bolt. Starting from the inside, remove these 10mm bolts. Now the final bolt you need to remove is actually above the bumper here. And I made a video a few months ago about how some of these trucks from the factory had the bumper adjusted a little bit differently to a point where you couldn't actually get a socket on that bolt anymore. So if you get to this point and you look in there and you see a 10mm bolt that's like half exposed and you can't put a wrench on it, can't put a socket on it, watch that video. It'll show you how to drop the bumper down just a little bit. It's a 5-minute process and you'll be able to do it. So this is the final bolt holding our headlight in. Now with an extension, you can reach in here, and I'll warn you ahead of time, try not to drop this bolt for whatever reason. I've dropped it like 4 times myself and it's never hit the ground, and you got to go hunting for it in the bumper. So remove it slowly, put your finger on it, and don't let it fall. At this point you can pull the headlight out. The best way I've discovered to do that is to actually lever the top out first and get it away from the fender, and then you can just lift the whole thing toward you and kind of work it out from behind the bumper. There's a million ways to do it. I found that way works the best. So at this point you can disconnect the wire harnesses going to the headlight. I leave these in, like you can twist them and remove them. I leave them in just so that I don't lose them, because the XB LED headlight doesn't use any of these. That way if you ever went back to stock, say you traded the truck in or something, everything's one place. We're gonna grab our fuse tap harness now. Now I know you guys are really excited to get these headlights installed, and I know there's an opening here and you're thinking, man, I gotta get that headlight put in right now. We have one step left. We need to install this fuse tap in our fuse box. Thankfully the instructions are very clear on where to put it. No guesswork, no multimeter required. So if you'll follow me over here, I'm gonna put our camera up here and show you guys exactly where this fuse tap goes. So open the lid to your fuse box. This is exactly what you're going to see. The instructions tell you to connect your fuse tap to position 35, and on this truck we had the OEM halogen lights. We don't have a fuse in that location from the factory, so just plug this thing into that empty slot right there. That's what it's going to look like. You can run this harness out, close the lid on top of it, and then we'll run it to our headlights. So one of the wires on this harness is longer than the other. The longer one goes to the driver's side of the vehicle, the shorter one goes to the passenger side here. And honestly, as far as routing goes, I'm just going to follow these coolant lines here across. They're nice and out of the way, they're protected. They're obviously designed to not be bumping into anything, nothing to worry about. So I'm going to chase those over there, zip tie it up nicely, and we'll be able to plug it into our headlight. I'm going to take this harness and just pass it through this opening here, right alongside my other headlight wiring. So you can see plenty of slack, and we're finally ready to get that headlight installed. So we've been waiting for these headlights for a long time. We've got a lot of customers waiting for them too. It's one thing to upgrade the lighting performance of your vehicle. You can do that with bulbs, you can do that with projector retrofits. It's another thing to transform the front of the truck entirely. And as you can see, we've had this truck wrapped and we've had the Vision X grill on it. We did the Honey Badger roof rack. This is what was missing. So on first glance, this part looks a little daunting, but I assure you it's actually pretty straightforward. We've got our little T10 marker light plug here. And if you head over to the factory harness, you'll find a T10 marker light plug. Clips into place real nice. We've got our turn signal plug. Connect that to the XB LED headlight. And then we've got that little plug that we ran from the fuse box for the DRL. Now, if you've got the factory LED headlights and you're just upgrading to these, you don't need to run this harness. And that plugs in just like so. Now, in the instructions, it explicitly states to use the black wire loom H13 connector to power the XB LED headlights. Do not use this gray one. This gray one just gets tucked out of the way. You can zip tie it nicely, whatever you want to do. So we can go ahead and install this thing now. And the way they go back in is the exact opposite of how you pulled it out. I usually start with the bottom, kind of lever the bottom in first. Be real gentle. Obviously you got a brand new nice set of headlights here. We don't need to be shoving too hard to get them into place. It should look something like this when you're done. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to do the passenger side quick. I'm going to plug everything in, make sure everything works. I'm going to go into the truck, turn the headlights on, turn the turn signals on, and just make sure, once again, make sure I've got all my LEDs working properly. Now's the time to find out if you need to change anything on the back side of the headlight. Last thing you want to do is put all this back together, the grill, everything, button it up, pull it out, and discover that you plugged something in wrong. So double check, make sure everything works, and then we're going to pull this over to the studio and see just how much brighter these things are.
You might have already seen these headlights in a review video by the Retrofit Source, and they got kind of different results than we did. They put them on the bench with a bench testing power supply, and they showed that these LED projector headlights were 200% brighter than the original LED headlights and 300% brighter than the OEM halogen reflector headlights. And when we mounted them on the truck, powered them up with the truck's batteries and the truck's alternator, and had both of them running at the same time, we got a slightly different result. When we measured them ourselves, we saw that they are 6 times brighter than stock. We measured the OEM halogen headlights that came in at only 510 maximum lux on low beam. These headlights have kind of a weird beam pattern from the factory, with almost like a cross or a T-shaped beam pattern. There's a lot of vertical illumination in the OEM halogen reflector headlights, and they came in at 510 max lux. Now, when we move to the Morimoto XB LED projector headlight, the brightness skyrockets up to 3,200 maximum lux on low beam. This is 6 times brighter than the original halogen headlights, and still way brighter with a better beam pattern than the original LED headlights you can get off the lot from Ford. When we took this truck out driving with these Morimoto XB LED projector headlights, we were blown away by the beam pattern, the spread, the cutoff line, and just how well they illuminated everything in front of the truck. When you're driving around with the stock halogen or LED headlights that come from Ford at the dealership, you don't get the same width. In fact, you get a really strange vertical beam pattern. Maybe they thought that would be best suited for a heavy-duty truck that more often than not isn't driving super fast on the highway. Either way, we don't like it. The color of these headlights comes in at about 6,000 K, kind of a cool white color. And at first, I was worried that that might be too bluish, but in practice, when we drove it, even on a dark, cloudy night with no moonlight, we could still see everything in front of the truck. I've got no concerns about the brightness or the color that these lights put out when driving around town or the back roads. When we switch it to high beam, you can actually see that the bottom two projectors on each side open up. The shield drops and you get a completely different beam pattern when using the high beam on these headlights.
As you can see, it's one thing to simply increase the light output of a headlight. It's another thing entirely to completely change the front end of the truck. The Morimoto XB LED headlights with their blacked out look completely change the front of your Super Duty. If you need anything else for your Ford Super Duty truck, fog lights, reverse lights, auxiliary lights like what we've got on the roof of this thing, check out our website, headlightrevolution.com. Thanks for watching.